there's no doubt that volatility is a key discussion point around cryptocurrencies. I think we have to remember that it's still a very nascent asset class. It's very sentiment driven. So, the investors that have historically been in this space have, until the last number of years, been more on the kind of retail and tech side. What I've observed personally is a lot more institutional flows into cryptocurrencies. I think by 2030, it will be the same as any other risk asset class. We're already seeing the largest hedge funds in the world actively trade a range of different cryptocurrencies. We're seeing institutional allocators commit capital to the space. Hopefully in 2030, we're not having a conversation about the price of Bitcoin, but we're actually talking more about the innovation that the underlying technologies and protocols that the crypto tokens represent, and seeing where the value in those actually lies. If you think about blockchain in itself, and what it applies to just on pure banking services, things like instantaneous settlements, full transparency through registries, I think a lot of this will ultimately provide safety into the ecosystem, but also reduce fees, and that's what the end user is looking for. The way the banking system works today is there's a huge amount of intermediaries that are involved in the process. With blockchain, a lot of the need for intermediaries disappears. And I think that's where the focus has to be. It's really what's the practical use of blockchain and associated technology rather than what's the price of certain tokens. I think people have been looking at it and going, okay, so I'm seeing Bitcoin, Ethereum rise, fall in value. Should I be invested in this? I think the education process is going to grow around really what are smart contracts, what is DeFi, and I think that's the role of people like ourselves in the industry, is to educate our communities on what are the practical use cases for a lot of this technology that's being developed. We're seeing some of the biggest venture funds, institutional allocators in the world commit capital into some of these DeFi type protocols and developments, and I think that ultimately will find its way through to the end consumer. The relationship between legacy banks and fintech is symbiotic. I think both need each other. I think in 2030 we'll be seeing an environment where they both exist side by side. I don't see traditional financial services disappearing completely, but I do see that the way in which that we transact may well change. I think financial services will ultimately look to provide the same types of services and products as they always have, but just using different types of technology to deliver those products.